Yeah, these players are ready to win championships. I'm not going to be looking at the obvious risers like, yeah, Michael Pittman Jr., 16 targets, 105 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. You love to see it. Sam Laporta, 140 receiving yards and the receiving touchdown. Alvin Kamara, multiple touchdowns, 8 targets. Fundamentally, nothing really has changed with these guys and their usage, right? I would rather focus in on the players that maybe didn't have as big of weeks as these 3 names, but fundamentally, their usage is changing in their backfields. Things are changing on their depth charts where they should be rising in fantasy football rankings, such as James Conner over in Arizona. I mean, James Conner, not as good as Alvin Kamara today, of course, but James Conner does get you the multiple rushing touchdowns. He has 25 carries. He has 105 rushing yards. This is the season high for carries. This is his second time this year going over 100 total yards rushing. This is his first time this season with multiple touchdowns in a single game. And if you are looking at James Conner, I am relieved because last week he split the backfield 3 ways with Demercado. He split the backfield with Michael Carter Jr. And I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, we called him a buy low candidate 2 weeks ago. Is this a falling apart right before our eyes? Well, no. I mean, it looks like what you had 2 weeks ago is just an absolute blowout with the Rams where it wasn't really a football game. So the usage at running back wasn't too predictive of what we should expect going forward. This week, you had James Conner seeing 51 snaps in comparison to Michael Carter at 13. Really, nobody else got involved here at all. So it looks like James Conner is pretty much going to get everything in this backfield, and you should be really excited. Now, let's go over to Nico Collins. Obviously, you have to give Nico a bump up. And early in the season, I was a little bit confused of the Nico Collins production. I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, I didn't think that this guy was an elite level talent at wide receiver. I still stand by. I don't really think that he is an elite talent at the wide receiver position. But I think what we have seen over a large sample now is CJ Stroud both being top 3 in the NFL in passing yards and passing efficiency with his adjusted yards per pass attempt, that Nico Collins is in an offense that should be at the very top of the NFL in passing. Now, if you are looking in this offense, Nico Collins is the last viable option, really, with no Tank Dell and with Dalton Schultz currently banged up. So, of course, we are going to continue to monitor Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz coming back in may knock Nico Collins down just 5% or so with this expected target share. But over the past 3 weeks now, Nico Collins is sitting here averaging about 10, 11 targets per game. This is back-to-back weeks over 100 receiving yards. Nico Collins is about to cross 1,000 receiving yards on the season. Keep in mind, this is a player that has also missed time. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard not to rank Nico Collins as a top 10 wide receiver rest of season with no Tank Dell. I do think that he's going to be there. Now, looking at Najee Harris, I don't act like Najee is some top-level talent, right? I mean, with Najee, I think that we can all agree, probably not a great running back. I mean, he's been very inefficient, 4.2 yards per carry. He's had 130 receiving yards off of 30 targets. So he's averaging about 4-something yards per target. So Najee Harris, not necessarily a super efficient running back. Najee Harris, not someone that we really showed any interest in earlier in the season when he was splitting the backfield 50-50 with Jaylen Warren. But that has changed. Now, if you were looking at 2 weeks ago against Cincinnati, you had Najee Harris coming out seeing 15 carries, 99 rushing yards, and the rushing touchdown. With the first week that you had no Matt Canada, I thought it was maybe a little bit of an outlier. I didn't necessarily think that was something that we could project going forward. Well, now we get another week of no Matt Canada at offensive coordinator. And despite the game script, where you'd assume that, oh, okay, they're trailing the Arizona Cardinals the entire time, it's a Jaylen Warren showing. No, it's the Najee Harris show here. Najee Harris sees 35 snaps in comparison to Jaylen Warren at 25. Najee Harris walks away with 16 carries and with 3 targets out of this backfield as well. Now, obviously, you can't be over the moon here with him, just given the fact that this is a very bad offense. And like we said, I don't think Najee is a super talented running back, but I do think that this puts him in a range where we are looking to start him as that low-end RB2 where we previously weren't. Now, let's go over and let's look at Devon Achane And his first week back in, we were saying fire him up. Phenomenal matchup against Washington. Implied team total of 30 points. Start everybody in Miami. We're going to repeat that. I mean, you're already looking ahead to week 14 here, and you have an applied team total of 30 points for Miami. We're consistently seeing Las Vegas sportsbooks tell us how good this offense is going to be, and they consistently go out there and crush it, scoring 45 points this week. With Achane, it's great to see multiple rushing touchdowns. With Achane, it's great to see 30 receiving yards. What I'm most excited about is the overall volume, both with his snaps and his touches. You have 17 carries for Devon Achane, which is the first time he has gone over 11 carries since September 24th. This is his second time in his career seeing more than 20 touches. If you look at the underlying snaps, Devon Achane sees 33 snaps in comparison to Raheem Mostert at 20. So you're seeing Achane lead the backfield in touches, lead the backfield in snaps, and we already saw Achane all season go out there and dominate with efficiency. So, I mean, this is a really good spot to be starting him going forward. Now, going over to another receiver. I do want to point out a receiver playing tonight in Calvin Ridley. I know Ridley's been rising up rankings. I'm recording this before the game, so I'm going to be going over to Underdog. I'm actually taking the fewer than 57.5 receiving yards on Ridley. Should be a game where they don't have to throw the ball in the second half. And Ridley, an extremely volatile wide receiver. And if you were to tell me with that big, I'm over on Underdog Fantasy. You can find that link in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Trevor Lawrence special pick of more than less than half a total yard with code FLOCK. But looking at Deebo Samuel here, this is a wide receiver that comes out as 3 total touchdowns, 130 total yards off of 7 opportunities. He has 4 targets and 3 carries. Just absurd efficiency at the very top of the NFL. Now, of course, I mean, the thing is, if you're playing in this San Francisco 49ers offense, and we have seen time and time again now that you just have an absurd ceiling based on the amount of points that are going to be scored. I mean, if we're going over and looking at Brock Purdy coming into this week was the number 1 quarterback in adjusted yards per pass attempt in the NFL. The only quarterbacks that were even close to Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, 8.7 compared to Brock Purdy at 9.8. Dak Prescott, 8.5 compared to Brock Purdy at 9.8. Tua, 8.4 compared to Brock Purdy at 9.8. Lamar Jackson, 7.9 compared to Brock Purdy at 9.8. Brock Purdy's going over 10 after this week, ladies and gentlemen. 27 pass attempts, 314 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns to 0 interceptions, sitting at 23 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions this season. I understand 100% y'all are going to go through and say, well, Mason, it's just a situation, yada, yada, yada. The situation is why I was drafting Trey Lance. Let's not talk about that. But nonetheless, it's hard to argue with how successful he has been, even if it is by far and away the best situation in the NFL. And he probably projects out to be that guy that you're having to start every single week. You're having to start every option in his offense every single week. That the 49ers look like they are the best team in football. And I don't know if it looks too close either. Now let's go over and let's look at some more running backs and their usage. Chuba Hubbard does see a considerable step up. And if you're going to last week, it was very interesting that Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard actually kind of split the backfield here, where I was like, okay, I guess we can't start Chuba Hubbard anymore. And the second that we say that, of course, it's the week that Chuba Hubbard going over 100 total yards, getting you multiple rushing touchdowns in the horrendous Carolina Panthers offense. If we're looking under the hood here for Carolina, you have 47 snaps for Chuba Hubbard in comparison to Miles Sanders at 23. So there's not much to this, right? Chuba Hubbard's going back, taking over as the starting running back yet again. The thing is, it's just such a bad offense. I don't know how excited you can realistically be to start him going forward, even if he is the said starter. I mean, if we are projecting him out, probably you're looking at a low-end RB2, high-end RB3. So what's a little bit frustrating with Chuba Hubbard still is, while he does go out there and while he takes back over the starting job over Miles Sanders, still, this is a player that has 0 targets out of the backfield. So it's not like you have that receiving floor from a week-to-week perspective. Now, someone that does have that receiving floor and is just adding more and more to it is Rashad White. if you're looking at White in this graph from PFF, you will see that he's been on a consistent trend this season, where previously at the beginning of the year, he was hovering around, say, 70% of his offensive snaps. Now he's closing in on like 85%. Rashad White is a true 3-down bell cow. Rashad White has the receiving usage where he has 46 receptions off of 51 targets. Going into this week, the man had, 44 receptions off of 46 targets. Absurd. Now you're also getting the usage as the rusher. Over the past 5 weeks, 20 carries, 9 carries, 15 carries, 20 carries. 6 total touchdowns on the season. I mean, it's hard not to rank Rashad White as a top 10 back. I don't know where we had him this past week. Thomas, you don't mind throwing up on the screen? That way people can, I'm sure, go down there and laugh at us that we are too low on Rashad White. For sure, he looks like, in a full PPR format, a borderline top 6 running back from a week-to-week perspective going forward. Now, going over to Kyren Williams, I know Kyren obviously was already phenomenal coming off the week against Arizona, where he had over 200 total yards. He had multiple touchdowns in that game as well. Well, Kyren Williams goes out there and he has over 100 total yards here. And Kyren Williams at the same time just takes over and plays all these snaps. I mean, it is just ridiculous. And I repeat, ridiculous to see a running back that I never thought could do something like this at his size go out there and play 59 snaps, give Royce Freeman 4 total snaps, go, hey, Royce, you do you with these 4 snaps. Let's see what you got. And just completely dominate as a 3-down workhorse in a tough matchup. Kyren Williams, similar to Rashad White, is a mid-running back 1 rest of season, if not a high-end RB1 rest of season. Like, I honestly think if we go through and look ahead to a video we'll make later in the week talking about these players that are falling down rankings and looking at Austin Eckler, we're probably going to have to put both Kyren Williams and Rashad White over Eckler in our rankings going forward. But I think that's all I have for y'all with this video. If y'all enjoyed it, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to tell me on that underdog pick'em, Calvin Ridley, fewer than 57.5 receiving yards, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and that Trevor Lawrence special pick'em more than less than half a total yard. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you, and I'm wishing you the best of luck as we gear up for the fantasy football playoffs.